we got through it, okay? Another year with no rain, certainly one of the more challenging years that I remember. And, you know, it was a race that actually I got a chance to watch on TV because I was in the command center, so I was not kind of there in the down and dirty. I want to tell you something, I learned more about this race this year than I have in the previous 7 years, because I saw what's behind this race from a federal, state, and local position to support us. And you'd be very, very proud in regards to it. You know, there were probably 25 to 30 people in the command center that were there monitoring virtually every single thing that goes on around here. So I want to thank the UPD. I've already spoken to the mayor. I want to thank the Utica Fire Department specifically from a local perspective, 911. I mean, everything was just totally top shelf, and so it was pretty cool. I want to speak to two issues, one of which is a tactical issue, and one of which is going to be an administrative issue. So let's talk about the tactical issue that I saw this year. One of the things that we're going to have to solve this year is the issue of people walking on the course. I had a vision in regards to it from being in the command center of hearing about the walkers much more than probably anybody else did on the ground at the start line, finish line, wherever it is. We need to stress to people that this is, at the end of the day, it's a race, it's a run, and you know, this year was a challenging year for us because we were up against what we saw as a significant weather event. So understand something, when these people are out there walking, taking much more time than what we need, it's not only them, but it's all the volunteers that I have to have out there to support them. So we're going to be looking at some sort of methodology in regards to it, whether it's some sort of a sag wagon or being, you know, very vigilant in regards to timing. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but we just have to really be very, very careful about this, because this problem seems to be getting worse over time. It just really feels that way. I know it was a hot day. I think Doc is going to talk about some numbers in regards to, quite frankly, which were remarkable from a medical perspective, but that needs to be solved. The administrative problem. We sold this race out in hours, and I would probably strongly suggest that next year's registration is going to be different. I don't know what that means at this point in time, considering we're just 24 hours out of this year's race, but the idea of going with a first come, first serve, opening up for everything, will probably not exist for the 2015 race. And that needs discussion, it needs thought in regards to what it's going to be. We're going to obviously look to our brother and sister races in regards to that. I mean, this is a problem that all races are having. They're using various models. We're going to use the model that we think works best for our race. We understand it's a big community thing. We also understand that this race generates millions of dollars to this community. So, you know, we have to try to do the best that we can, fully understanding that, you know, the only people that like registration systems are the ones that get in the race. The ones that don't get in the race tend to not like particular registration systems. So we totally understand that. That's kind of all I had to talk about from my perch of where I was. I'd like to next have Jim talk in regards to specific issues as far as race day yesterday.
Thank you, Tim. And really, as far as issues go, there weren't really any that we could see. You know, making this decision to go forward at 5 o'clock in the morning, it was great. We were all ecstatic about that. I know it caused a lot of sleepless nights for a lot of committee members having to deal with that. But handling the situation the day before, having the meeting and making that decision and letting the public and our runners know what was going on, forewarning them, I think they all paid attention, and we were ecstatic to say that the race was going to go forward. We know that we did have to cut back a little bit on the post-race party. But from what feedback we've gotten, everybody was very understanding. They know why we did it. We did it for their safety and the safety of our volunteers, and everybody's very understanding. So we, again, we are happy with the way everything went for this year's race. A few numbers, we had record numbers this year, really. As far as the start, we had 11,941 start. In the 15K, we had 11,895 finish. In the 5K, we had 4,147 start, and we only lost 5. We had 4,142 finish. It took about 15 minutes to clear, 15 and a half minutes to clear everybody out of the 5K start, and about 6 minutes for the 15K start was 15 minutes, and about 6 minutes for the 5K. So, again, everything was great, the weather held off, we were extremely happy, and answer questions afterwards, but I think Doc has some good numbers about what happened medically here.
We first need to thank everyone involved in the medical tent. I don't know how many of you know that the people in the tent are most qualified nurses, they're ICU nurses, elite paramedics, high-level paramedics, experienced people, many people who come back to the tent almost year after year. This year we had 222 medical volunteers, both on the course and in the tent, and that's been about our usual number. We range from generally 180 to 220. This year was at the higher level of that. We had 152 patient encounters, 22 on the route, 104 in the medical tent, which is half what we had last year. It was a great year with good overcast, no direct sun, a decent breeze most of the way through. We saw our first patient in the medical tent at 7:30, and that's almost exactly the same time that we see our first patient in the medical tent every year. There were 8 transports to the hospital, 1 or 2 from the course, and the others from the medical tent. And there were a variation of problems, some dehydration, some electrolyte imbalances, but not a lot of electrolyte imbalances. We've usually seen more occasional problems with patients who are diabetic, and we've seen less and less of that as we begin to understand how diabetics tolerate exercise. We had a couple of other issues, questionable respiratory problem, some people with known asthma who had some difficulties on the course. But in general, much less than we usually see. And from the perspective of the finish line, the people looked much better coming through. There were not a lot of people who looked really stretched out or worn out. They looked generally in great shape as they came through. So it was a wonderful day for us, one of the best Boilermakers that I've been involved with. And we hope for more of the same next year. We'll answer any questions you might have later.
Dick?
Sure.
We were very happy with the results of the elite side of the race, and we wound up crowning a pro circuit champion, which was great. That's always a plus. The fact that we got an opportunity to be the host for the championship this year was an unusual situation, but I think we did a great job representing the pro circuit by bringing in runners that challenged the champions. And in fact, on the men's side, while we had 2 men that were running for the championship, neither one of them wound up winning. One finished second, and the other one finished third or fourth. And we had a new person on the female side of it. We had the potential for somebody winning the championship and actually taking home the maximum prize amount, and that happened. And she did it. So I think that was good for the Boilermaker. It's good in giving the Boilermaker recognition, not only nationally but internationally. And There were some emails exchanges after the race yesterday with one of the racing publications in reference to that. And so it's in today's results in that publication, and I think that's good for the city of Utica and good for the Boilermaker Road Race. In reference to the medical side of it, that Dr. DeTry addressed, we actually, on the invited runner side, dealt with 2 people who experienced medical problems. One of them was an asthma situation that Doc referred to, and the person went to, when they got to one of the water stops. And that's the other thing, you got all these volunteers and you wonder, do we really need all those volunteers? Do we really need water at every mile and whatnot? And I think the answer to that question is obviously yes, because that's how this person was able to not have that unfortunate situation turn into a disaster. At one of the water stations, she made it known she was having a problem, and the medical people and the people at that water station took care of her immediately. We also had one of the elites go through the medical tent because she was having that type of a situation where she did need to be taken care of at the tent. And once again, the outstanding job that the people that handle the medical side of the Boilermaker did a great job. She's from outside this area, she's from another country, but her agent, who was from this country, was there and just thought we did a wonderful job on taking care of her. So that's all the different aspects that we experienced on the invited runner side. If anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to deal with that, or if not, we can move on to the next person.
Sure. Sure, no. UPD?
Just quickly, I'd like to first acknowledge all of our law enforcement partners. I know as the lead agency, we get a lot of credit for the successes, but there's a lot of other agencies involved here. We have the state police, Rome, New Hartford, New York Mills, Yorkville. All those law enforcement agencies take a huge part of this. We could not handle this on our own. Our coordinator, Lieutenant Kelly, literally from last year, took over this race from the beginning. He had never done this race by himself. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of planning, way more than most people can understand. Tim obviously was a huge part of that. As essentially the lead, he takes, like most people in the lead, he takes not enough credit, probably too much blame for things sometimes, but I wanted to talk just briefly about the party afterwards. I think that some people probably looked at the weather and after the fact and said, what was the big deal? It wasn't bad. And it wasn't, thankfully. However, most of us were up on the weather immediately prior to and during the race, and there was a huge storm that could have hit us for whatever reason. It didn't. Somebody was smiling down, but it didn't. But it could have very easily. And had it hit us during that post-race party, I think it could have been very bad, because for us, we've got to try to not only protect all those people there, but get them out of there. Instead of gradually like it normally is, it would have had to have been all at one time, which could have been catastrophic, and it wasn't. And I think that's because of the planning that went in and the preparations and really being cautious. So I think that was a tough decision to make. I think it was the best decision to make. The safety of the runners, the spectators, the volunteers, the workers, all the people that go into this is paramount. That has to be the first and foremost. So I think all the decisions that were made yesterday were important. And for Tim's sake, he had a lot of input from other people that know a lot more about this stuff than any of us do. But ultimately, he has the decision to make, and I just want to commend him, because I think it was as good as it could have possibly gone. I think we had some luck, but there was a lot of planning that went into that luck. So I'd just like to thank everybody that helped us make it a good day. That's it.
Great. So, Steve was brave enough to start naming organizations, because then all of a sudden there's always one that you forget about. I just want to say 2 things. There apparently is, and I'm not Roman Catholic by faith, but apparently there is a patron saint of good weather, and I don't remember the name of the saint, of whatever it is, but whoever it was, it definitely worked, and I received tremendous amount of good vibes from people in regards to holding it back. Maybe it was Bob Ingalls that was watching over us for one more year. And secondly, I just want to say thank you to you know, I've already sent a thank you out to the directors, but, you know, I just want to say a personal thank you to, you know, our 160 committee members and our thousands of volunteers that were out there. You know, it wasn't a great day, I mean, from a weather perspective, but it was a great day, in my opinion, in regards to making this community shine. So, you know, I just want to, you know, I'm thankful to be a part of this organization in regards to it, but really at the end of the day, I'm just one part of it. I'm not all of it. So, all of those people, it's one of these things where the individual parts have made something just absolutely tremendous. So, any questions for any of this august body?
I'm going to ask you a question, and I apologize in advance for putting you on the spot. You might not be able to give us an exact amount, but logistics aside, money-wise, what are we talking ballpark if the race had to have been canceled?
Well, so if the race had been canceled, we were basically, you know, and I'm going to shoot from the hip here. This race cost about $750,000 to put on. Okay, virtually all of the money at this point in time would have been spent, except for our league prize money. That's it. Okay, people setting up the stage, the people that we rent the porta johns from, all on and on and on and on. The volunteer shirts, the pins, the glasses, the on. It's spent, and they really don't care that the race doesn't happen or not. So that would have been the position we would have been in regards to it. So it would have been gone.
And overall of this year's test run, a good thing for the Boilermaker?
I thought it was fantastic. You know, I'll be honest with you. I was physically ill Saturday afternoon when we were having this because I was in the middle of the expo, and I saw all these people who were like, "Oh, man, this is going to be great. I'm going to be running this run, whatever." And I'm sitting there to myself thinking, we may have to pull the switch on this. And it was great to be able to have that conversation in the afternoon among all the people, and everybody had a chance to have a voice in regards to it about what the decision was going to be. And I got to tell you, I probably was running about an hour and a half worth of sleep Saturday night, and then had to make a call to National Weather Service at 4:30. And you know, and they're as good as they can be. I mean, he's not going to put himself on the spot in regards to it, and then make the decision to put it on 5 o'clock. So it's it was tight. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It was tight.